Political channel of LB. I'm his contributor. If you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Follow me on Twitter at TrueVirgoChild. Share these videos on your social media platforms. Let's get down to business. Many videos I've talked about this Black Lives Matter group, and in particularly its founder, Patrisse Cullors. Now, she and her BFF has been taking the money that they've been getting in donations and practically funding their own lifestyle with it, to the point they've bought homes in Bermuda, along with like 4 other homes across the country, and even so much as sent money to Canada in a report I did last month. So they've really taken the art of the grift to different levels of the atmosphere. They're literally using the death of Black folks, whether it be Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, amongst others, and basically making their own path to prosperity. Now, this is an article coming from the Daily Mail, where the Black Lives Matter group blew $12.7 million of the $60 million in donations it received in 2020 on consultants and lawyers, including high-powered legal firms retained by Hillary Clinton during her failed presidential campaign. According to IRS filings, nearly a quarter of the $60 million raised by August 2020 was spent on accountants, legal services, contractors, consultants. The foundation also reported it expected to spend the same amount on such costs in 2021. The figures were included in its IRS 1023 filing, which was required to apply for nonprofit status. BLM was recognized as a nonprofit in December 2020. However, early this month, it was revealed that Black Lives Matter has not provided its latest tax return, and the 2019 filing has a non-existent address. So that is a big red flag right there. BLM released a snapshot of its finances last February, revealing it had raked in $90 million in 2020 and ended the year with a balance of more than $60 million. The charity, which is now in delinquent status, hasn't had anyone in charge of its finances since its co-founder, Patrisse Cullors, resigned last May. The most high-profile Black Lives Matter group in the nation spent almost a quarter of its donations in 2020. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation submitted a statement of its revenue and expenses for the year while applying for a tax-exempt nonprofit status. The costs refer to accountants, lawyers, consultants, and contractors utilized by the organization, which includes the high-power law firm Hillary Clinton retained for her 2016 presidential campaign, where attorneys were billed $750 an hour. The foundation also planned to spend the same amount as professional fees in 2021. The documents exclusively obtained by DailyMail.com show. The figures come amid heightened security of the foundation, which famously grew into one of the largest international movements against racial injustice in mid-2020, and now is facing calls for financial transparency. Now, the 3 co-founders, Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi, are no longer involved with the organization. Now, Patrisse Cullors is LGBT. So they never really, in my opinion, they never really set up for the Black agenda. They were more for LGBT. Now, initially, a lot of people fell for the grift. They fell for the sham. They fell for this farce. Because while it was on the surface, it was well intentioned to bring about racial injustice, but in the background, behind the scenes, this was nothing more than a money making grift by these three women. On a lower scale, we've seen other people, more women in general, more black women, that would have like these get togethers in the name of Breonna Taylor or in the name of George Floyd or whoever, right? And the money that they raise, whether it be getting a hair done or getting a haircut or whatever the case may be, does that money go back to the family that they got their name on flyers and posters and emails and all that other stuff? Does that money really go back to the victim, family of the victim? No. More often than not, that money does not go back to the family of the victim. That money gets pocketed by these grifting con artists. And that's disgusting. You're going to take on an idea in the name of a slain black individual. The very least you can do is give that proceeds to the family of the victim. But instead, what we see is these individuals take this money, they spend this money, they buying expensive cars, they got houses. These houses are so goddamn elaborate, and they have multiple houses. They ruined a very, very good possibility here, all because they want to be greedy. Have they even bothered to take their asses to a lot of these hoods out here, whether it be LA, whether it be DC, Baltimore? Have they even bothered to go to those areas and see what those areas look like? All that money that they raise for this so-called nonprofit, they could have taken that money, fixed up houses for in these black communities. Could have put more. Could have taken that money and put resources into the inner city schools, giving kids the ability to who can't afford a computer because the families are struggling or whatever like that. Maybe kid can get a computer so that way they can be on the same level playing field as their white counterparts in these schools and all that. I mean, they could have done so much good, but instead they got greedy. And when you get greedy, you get careless and you get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, there's this false level of complacency that sets in. And when you become complacent, that's when you fuck up. And when you fuck up, that's when you get caught. Now, these motherfuckers right here are going to go to jail for this bullshit. Point blank, period. And I will feel absolutely nothing because they took a concept that had the potential to do a lot of good and they got greedy and they funded their own lifestyle with it. I didn't give a dime to this organization, not one red fucking cent. And there's good reason for that. Because I saw for what it was, a motherfucking sham, a farce, a front, a smokescreen. So instead of eating bologna and cheese sandwiches, these hoes out here eating goddamn on filet mignon. And that's disgusting. Fucking disgusting. Now I'm gonna show y'all something. We about to get gutted in this bitch. One second. Get this off the screen. As you can see here, this is the IRS form, right? That somehow the Daily Mail received. This exemption, however, means Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund will be subjected to regulatory oversight and be required to file Form 990 every year. So this is the paperwork. There are a few figures on the documents behind the financial data that states that the foundation has received $60 million of donation. By that point, they would later say the total haul was $90 million. Under professional fees, it was $12,706,366 for 2020 and predicted a similar sum, $12.7 million in 2021. According to the IRS guidelines for the form, professional fees are amounts charged by individuals and entities that are not your employees. They include fees for professional fundraisers, accounting services, legal counsel, consultant services, contract management, or any independent contractors. It is unclear if questions over the expenditure is holding up the filing of a paperwork by Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund with the California Attorney General, which regulates nonprofits. So the DOJ, and once again, DOJ is headed by Christian Clark. What's up, Luda Ryder? Salute to you, bro. You already know what it is, man. They don't care about black people. They only care about they only care about one color, and that's green. Now, this is the 1023 form that they sent. And mind you, the address that they provided to the IRS is not even a address that's valid. It's not a valid address. Now, according to the Washington Examiner, which reported the story, the letter states that BLM GNF is prohibited from soliciting or dispersing charitable funds until it submits paperwork for the 2020 year. Now, one thing that hadn't been talked about yet is the fact that even Amazon themselves cut ties with Black Lives Matter. In light of all that's going on with Black Lives Matter, as far as like its dealings, its finances, where's the money going, all that other stuff, right? Failing to disclose all this stuff on tax returns and all this other stuff, Amazon decided to cut ties with the Black Lives Matter organization. And you know who runs Amazon? Lex Luthor himself, Jeff Bezos, right? Now, Tori Russell, an activist from St. Louis, Missouri, and co-founder of the International Black Freedom Alliance, was sharply critical of Black Lives Matter for spending so much on expenses. Now, I remember that because he called them out initially about this. Now, a lot of people didn't see the sham for what it is now, but he was the first one to call this out. He and Mike Brown Sr., the father of Mike Brown, the 18-year-old who died in Ferguson at the hands of police back in 2014 by a white police officer, sparked a wave of protests around the United States and said in March he wanted to hold the foundation accountable. is the nonprofit industrial complex on steroids. He compared to the military industrial complex and the alliance between a country's military and the defense industry that it supplies with weapons. It's a white supremacist model of doing movement work. Lawyers and consultants hired by Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund were really NGO people inserted to Black Power movement. He does not buy the argument that Washington insiders were needed to achieve influence on a national scale. You're not the beast going to conquer another beast. You're the parasite riding the beast. Now, they would not be able to have a conversation if they did not lie and say they were the people in the streets doing the protests and doing the marches. The IRS documents show that the power of attorney lies with Ezra Reese and Sarah Mahmood, lawyers with the Washington law firm Perkins Coie, whose senior attorneys bill $750 an hour and up, according to legal findings from 2019. Perkins Coie is the official counsel of the Democratic National Committee and represented Hillary Clinton for her failed 2016 presidential election. So they're dealing with white supremacists. So in the forefront, you got this group that's supposed to be for Black people, a nonprofit organization for Black people, that its money, its time, its power, and resources was going to go to the Black community. That's what they were out here spouting off and putting on this front and putting it on sham like. But if you peel the onion back, you see that they're dealing with white supremacists. And we all know about the DNC. The DNC has a cesspool of white supremacists. Hell, Hillary Clinton herself is a goddamn white supremacist. Just a delinquency notice and of assessment and penalties and suspension of his registered status as a nonprofit organization. This is the paperwork right here, back on January 31st. Now, the other lawyer, Reese serves as the general counsel for Pete for America, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign, and the Democratic Political Action Committee, Priorities USA. Now, on the IRS firms, Colors is listed as director of Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund, and Chrisman Bowers is named as deputy executive director. Bowers, who also goes by the name of Shalomya Bowers, runs Bowers Consulting and is a former Obama campaign staffer who has been close to Colors for some time. Now, divisions in the BLM movement erupted in November 2020 when 10 local chapters severed ties with BLM, GNF, and published an open letter to the organization saying there was no acceptable internal process for accountability. So basically, there was a free-for-all. You had people taking the money, running with this money. Nobody knows where the money's going except to the bank accounts of some greedy-ass individuals. And I'm not even just talking about the Patrisse Cullors of the world. I'm talking like other people within the Black Lives Matter chapter, right? Who is taking the money and running. Period. So I'm not going to read too much more because I'm not trying to bore you to death, but you should let this serve as a lesson to you. Let this serve as a lesson to you. You have to do your due diligence. When you out here giving your hard-earned time to an organization or you giving your hard-earned money to an organization, right? Do your research. Dig into these so-called nonprofit organizations. Who's the head of it? What is their driving mission? Is it legitimately a nonprofit? Do they have a headquarters, a central office. We're in this age of the internet where you can, or we're in this level of the information age where you can look up information on your phone, tablet, computer. Hell, some of you guys running around here with smartwatches. I don't have one, but I know a lot of you out there do. You can look up any piece of information about anything. So there's no excuse for you not to do your due diligence when it comes to looking up information to validate that what you're getting into is legal and ethical. Now, these individuals need to be arrested. They need to be arrested and prosecuted. Because what this is right here is disgraceful, but it's very illegal. These people are literally stealing money and they're getting away with it, and that's unacceptable. You guys let me know what y'all think about this. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share these videos on your social media platforms. And last but not least, shouts out to the mighty LDBC, Lions Den basketball community. They really need to do something about this because this is some bullshit. And that money that they get, they need to take that money and give it back to the black. Either you give it back to the people who donated, or you take that money, you put that shit in the resources. Because there's a lot of homeless people out here. There's a lot of people out here who don't have a home. There's a whole lot of people out here that don't have a place to go, don't have any resources to turn to. Instead of going out there putting a leopard print on a pool, you can take that money and maybe update the pool that's in the community that's out there, got water moccasins and mold and all this other stuff surrounding it. Or put that into a boys and girls club that got the roof leaking, the floor creaking, there's cockroaches everywhere, there's goddamn shrooms growing out of the sink, Ratatouille's making soup in the kitchen. You could put that in, you could put that money into some better products. Maybe put that into a basketball court. Kids don't got nowhere to go after school. They can go to the Boys and Girls Club. Have established tutors that can teach them how to read and write on a basic level. And then for the more advanced kids, because despite the fact they might be in an impoverished situation, there are probably some kids out there that are really bright. Because now they're learning multiplication, division, they're learning that shit at a young age. I didn't learn that until I was like in 6th grade back in the day. Now they're learning that in like 3rd grade. 3rd and 4th, like 1st and 2nd grade, they're learning that now. In this ever evolving world we live in, right? Provided there's World War III don't end things, and cut the check. And I don't care what the fuck going on in the Ukraine. I don't give a fuck about all that bombing and all that shit. Give me my motherfucking check. Because you ain't about to get off reparations, all right? But we're gonna talk about that in another video. But there's so many things that can be done with that money that they got, and they chose to fund their own lifestyle. That's the thing that really plucks the feathers off my chicken. That's the thing that really boils my broccoli. That's the thing that really make my pubic hair stand up. And they should not get away with that at all. Smash the like, hit the subscribe. This your man. Scream at me. Oh!